So my first Ironman in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that I've been training for almost an entire year for, did not go as planned. So August 22nd, 2022, I signed up for Ironman Alaska. Let's give you a little backstory. Ironman Alaska ended up being canceled. Now I had a choice of choosing another Ironman to do. So good thing is we had enough advance notice for all the people who signed up for Ironman Alaska. So I wanted to choose a race around the same date that I was supposed to be doing Ironman Alaska for training purposes, so that I didn't have to do anything crazily sooner or too much later than that. So Ironman Coeur d'Alene in Idaho was the next closest one, and it's June 25th, 2023 of this year. A little backstory about me: I've been doing triathlons for almost 10 years now, and I am not fast at all. I am very much a recreational amateur triathlete. And I remember I couldn't even swim a full lap in college. Is when I first started. Freshman year of college, I was originally a runner, and freshman year of college, I wanted to explore kind of getting into this triathlon world and trying to swim and trying to bike too. So swimming was the hardest. I finally did my first indoor triathlon in undergrad, and it was a timed event. It was a 10-minute swim, a 20-minute bike, a 15-minute run, go as far as you can. And that was the longest 45 minutes of my life. And I worked my way up to doing then a sprint triathlon, an Olympic triathlon, a half Ironman. I did 2 half Ironmans, one pre-COVID and one in preparation for this race. So I did Panama City half Ironman this year in preparation for this, my first full Ironman. And so I felt really prepared for this. My training has been going great. I've been training for about 10 months total. And in the beginning, I actually had COVID in July of last year. And so that recovery process, in terms of my heart rate, was getting super high when I was even just walking upstairs or going on a long walk. It was hitting like 200 beats per minute, which, for those of you who don't know, is not normal. So when I got into my Ironman training in the very beginning, it was more strength training, and I actually put myself on a walking program so that I could just get my heart rate down and then work my cardio back up from there. So before I actually got COVID, I had just run like a 10K. I was doing great. I felt amazing. And then afterwards, I had to really slowly progress back up towards doing any kind of cardio, because that was really just, I got up to biking for 6 hours. My peak week, you guys watched the old video, my peak week of training for this, I biked 6 hours straight. I made it 92 miles. And then my run the next day was a 17-mile run. I did it in about 3 hours. And for the swim, I did a 3,100-yard swim. For those of you who don't know, a full Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and a marathon run, which is 26.2 miles at the end. And yes, this is all in one day. And yes, there's a time limit, and I knew this going into it. You have 17 hours to complete the race. And throughout the race, there are actually checkpoints in which you could be cut out of the race if you don't make it to a certain distance in the bike or on the run or in the swim at a certain time of day or at a certain time allotted. So for the swim, you had 2 hours and 20 minutes to finish it. It took me about 1 hour and 50 minutes. And for the bike, you had to be at a certain mile marker by 1:30 p.m. And let's get to that in a moment. So I've been chilling today, took a nap, had some pizza, and now doing a ton of laundry, because training for an Ironman, one thing people don't think about is it means a lot of laundry. So here I am. Also packing up and making sure that I have exactly what I need for Idaho. So today's Sunday. This is my last ride. And then I'm gonna drop off my bike to make sure it is cleaned, taken apart completely, disassembled, put in a bike box. I'm gonna pick it up Tuesday and leave Wednesday for the race. I'll have my bike in a bike box to put on the airplane. So I've never traveled with a bike before on a plane. I've always done it in a car or something like that. So this will be a first. I'm looking forward to it, and let's ride. Alright, here's a little bit of my equipment that I packed up. I got my nails done with the Ironman logo. I had to do it. I saw somebody at Panama City with their nails done. I was like, this is awesome. Got my bike in a box, and we're off to the airport. So we actually flew into Seattle, and then the next day we drove to Coeur d'Alene. So this is us in Seattle. So it was about a 5-hour drive from Seattle to Coeur d'Alene. Honestly, it was so beautiful. It was a fantastic drive. If you guys have never been out there, just take a look here. And it got me so excited to get to Idaho, to just see the mountains. To come from Florida, where I live right now, and going to Idaho was so cool. And so enjoy a bit of our drive. And we finally made it to the Airbnb, and it actually worked out perfectly. Getting housing for this Ironman was actually kind of a challenge. So you guys, book your Ironman housing early. We got super lucky. We're about 5 minutes from the race start, and we were in a very walkable area. And so it was so cool to be there. I did a trial run for the swim in just my tri-suit because I wanted to see how it felt, I definitely chose to go with a wetsuit because the water temperature was 63 degrees on race day. And that's chilly. That's chilly, for those of you who don't know. And the swim was so beautiful. For those of you who have not been to Idaho, this water is unbelievable. After a little warm-up swim, we drove the bike course just to get an idea of what it's going to be like. Obviously, you can see a map and you can see the elevation gain on a graph, but actually driving it is so different. So we drove the course and I actually got to bike some of it. So I picked the toughest hill on the whole course and I wanted to practice biking it. So here it is. So after the 30-minute ride on the course was finally done and I was over doing these hills, we actually went over to Ironman Village, and this is where all the magic happens the days before the race, where we got to go pick up registration stuff, see the different vendors, make sure you get your gear bags to then put your gear in for race day and then drop off your bike. So here is Ironman Village.
Here in Coeur d'Alene.
It was far too beautiful to not hike somewhere. So after a nice little hike, I picked a short one, and although it was up the side of a mountain and maybe I was a tiny bit sore, it was enough days before the race where I felt okay. So enjoy some nice views of Idaho. So my coach said stay off my feet the day before the race, so we did.
I do not like this. No.
You got it. Trust fall. Trust fall.
Flip-flops. So I'm not putting any of this in a bag. I'm gonna wear my tri-suit. I'm gonna have the wetsuit, have stuff to lube up my arms to get into the wetsuit, swim cap, my swim cap, earplugs for the cold water to not get dizzy, goggles that I'm gonna use if they break, backup. For the bike, for the gear bag, I'm putting my sunglasses in here. I'm putting my helmet in here. Oh, I have to sticker up my helmet first. Which I'm going to take with me because I'm going to put it on in the morning. I have my little yoga mat thing for the transition area, so if the ground's wet, my stuff doesn't get wet. Socks, bike shoes, my clothes, because I'm going to change for once. Sports bra, bike shorts, bike shirt, and my nutrition, all the goo, stuff to wipe off my feet, extra goos, headband for the helmet, this for any additional nutrition that can't fit in my shirt. I was going to pack additional nutrition in the bike personal needs for mid-ride, a towel to wipe down after the swim when I'm changing, and then the water bottles will go in there. And run. Run gear bag. I have my shoes and socks. I'm bringing an extra pair of socks in case I need it, as I learned the hard way. Running with wet feet equals horrible blisters. Under Armour, I'm going to put in the personal needs bag. It's my running outfits, new sports bra, new shorts and shirt, extra deodorant to put everywhere, hat, headlamp, because it's going to get dark, my bib number, nutrition, more goos, a headband, liquid IV, back to that bag. And now the bikes get a fun slumber party the day before the race. All the bikes are here, and I enjoy a last supper, classic pasta dinner the night before the race. Race morning started at 4:45 a.m. and it was bright outside because we were so far north. I had my coffee and oatmeal and continued to pace. As usual, before a race, I have to pace. And it was going swimmingly until I ripped my wetsuit right before the swim start. I ripped it right down the crotch trying to get my suit on. So I got in this cold water. It got all through my whole body. On the swim went amazing. It was a fun swim. This was the clearest water I've ever been in. It was cold. This is a lake where, you know, glaciers melt and that glacier water goes into this lake. So it was cold, but it felt really great. You're surrounded by mountains and it's just unreal. This was definitely the most beautiful course I've ever done for the parts that I did get to do. Now for the bike. So actually, let's backtrack. When I stood up from the swim, I had a sharp pain down in my stomach and I kind of just brushed it off. I was like, it'll be fine, you know, it's whatever. And when I got to the bike, I made it about 2 hours in. I realized I was going pretty slow. This was a mountainous ride. It had about 7,000 feet of an elevation gain. And I knew that going into it. And I knew the run had about a 3,000 foot elevation gain. And so for the bike, I was going an average of like 12 miles an hour. I was just not making it. So I tried to push it a little bit up these mountains. And I was going up this one mountain towards around mile 25 or 30. And I had a massive like stabbing pain in the same spot, like down my lower right quadrant. And I was like, no. I was like, fuck. I was like, oh. I've never felt something quite like this before. And it worried me. And it literally brought tears to my eyes. And so I pushed through as much as I could. I biked. I was crying during the bike. I knew I was going to cry during the race because it's just an emotional thing, but I didn't think I'd be crying because of that kind of pain. And so about 30 minutes of me crying and biking went by, and I got off. I went to one of the aid stations. I was like, you know, I can make it one more aid station. So I got back on my bike and biked for about maybe another 30 minutes, still crying and biking. And I could not take it anymore. So I got off, went to the aid station, and they called in somebody to take me to the med tent. Went from one car to the next aid station, which then took me to the med tent at the transition area. They checked me out and they sent me to the ER for potential appendicitis. I really didn't want to get on a plane if I had appendicitis because it could possibly burst, and that is a deadly situation you do not want. So I went to the ER, and they actually had said at the ER it was not that. However, I had ovarian cyst rupture. So I was annoyed, and I was so upset because this is something I've been training for almost a year, and I've been journaling my whole experience along the way and doing these videos. And so many of you have been reaching back out saying like that you've done your first triathlon because you've seen some of my videos, or you finally got back into running, or you're getting onto a walking program, or you're going back to the gym, or whatever it is for you guys. And it's so amazing. And I've been raising funds and awareness for mental health research along this whole journey too. And so although it didn't end as I had anticipated, although it ended up with me in the ER and not finishing the race, I am so proud of all of you and so thankful to have all of you supporting me along this journey. More blessed to have such an amazing, supportive group of people behind me, and an amazing running partner too. Shout out to my running partner and videographer. Shout out to him for this. I could not have done it without all of you. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is not the end of triathlon for me. I am going to try to do a full Ironman again one day. I don't know when, but it will be again one day soon. Stay tuned for future videos coming up. Thank you guys.